My name's SHAMESOUNDS and I'm breaking down my new track Closure, out now on Madox Records. So we'll just start off with the first 8 bars, which I brought in a bridge, and then I followed that with the break. I wanted to bring the bridge into play because I wanted to bring a vibe towards the listener, but not just rush into anything right away. I wanted to have a progression. So the first 8 bars is just a normal ARP with some ambience and the vocal chop from the drop. With the vocal chop, I pushed it way back in the mix with a filter and some reverb, just so that it wasn't the main element that was being played, but it was just teasing the listener towards what was to come. Going towards the break, we'll have the vocals. But just before that, I just reversed the vocal, rendered the first part of the vocal, rendered it and reversed it. You've seen this technique done a million times. The only thing I did different was to just automate the pan from left to right. The processing of the vocal is just your generic stuff, EQ, compression, some delay and reverb. But at the very start of the chain, I added a manipulator just to change the format of the vocal, so just changing the harmonics just a bit higher. This is what it sounded like before. Keep me closer. I felt like the harmonics just needed to be a wee bit higher just to suit the vibe of this. Keep me closer. Also, I automated the delay of the main vocal just to fill up the empty gaps in between each word. Keep me closer. Also, I have a support vocal here, which is MIDI triggered by another manipulator. Manipulator's such a great VST, and I love using it on vocals. So what I've did here was put through a manipulator, pitched it down to a full octave with the format as well. Go on to the rapper settings, and then directed the MIDI input port to 1, and then we go over to the MIDI pattern. I added in MIDI out and linked it to 1. Whatever note I'm playing, it's playing that note with the vocal. We have G here, so the vocal's going to play on G. So main vocal, support vocal, Reese bass line that's being pitch automated. The same art played as before, but the whole melody is playing in it. Some more ambience impacts. I love using tonal impact because it just adds so much character to the track. Some drum hits and vocal samples. Keep me closer. Don't need closure. 'Cause I don't want it to end. And then into the build-up. The build-up's nothing really special. It's just, repeating the vocals with some drums for in the floor pattern, some risers, white noise impacts, the whole lot. I use them common techniques where I've added a high pass filter, some reverb, and I've closed down the stereo image just so that the build-up has a lot of tension but leaves more impact for the drop. Now in the first drop we'll have your basic 4 in the floor pattern. You're kicking your clap, and this first drop here we'll have an A-B call and response sort of style. So 2 bars, it plays. The third and fourth bar plays this. So you have your A and B, your call and response. On the B side of the call and response, I changed up the clap. Switches it up, it adds a bit of variety to the track. Your typical bass line with your sub and your gritty bass lines. Your typical EQ compression, and then I just routed it to a sidechain. Some saturation on one of the bass lines. And then also what I've used here is a sample from a virtual rad pack from Splice. I'll play it for you here without any effects. This is how it originally sounded. So I didn't stretch it into tempo. I just chopped it up and placed it so that it sounded in time, but I didn't want to stretch it too much, so that, you know, when you stretch samples too much, it starts to sound, you know, really bad. Try at all costs to avoid stretching your samples too much. Load of effects here: EQ, saturation, more EQ, a short reverb, just to add some width to it, you know what I mean? It's subtle, but without it, it does sound like something's missing. More distortion, EQ, compression, and then I copied the same one, put it on a different channel, and then just pushed it to the side so it has a bit more support on the sides and fills up more of the spectrum. Also have some more vocal cuts, more elements just to fill up the spectrum and add to the groove. Reverse vocal, drum fills, sweeps, drum hits, and then you have your typical Seth Hill stab, well, which is more than overused. I'm going to explain how I did the vocal chop here. So it is a sample from Madox. I'm going to play it without any effects. And I pitched it up 3 semitones, was it? So 3 semitones up, yeah, so that, and then I added a lot of effects. So manipulator, just work with the harmonics, some coloring with sound goodizer, EQ, distortion, small bit of reverb, just monitoring the stereo image, more reverb, a filter, and then just more EQing after that. Now, what's really underrated is using pitch automations. I'm going to play it with and without, and you'll see the difference. And it just brings a completely different vibe when you work with pitch. And then with pitch, it's just completely different, you know. Moving on to the second break. It's the same as the first break, but what I've added is some pluck chords. Very subtle, you can't really hear it that much, but it does add to it. And a piano. So we'll have a breakbeat breakdown. From the breakdown to the build up, I added a bridge in between just so that it's not sounding too repetitive, and because the second drop is different from the first drop, I wanted to introduce that to the listener just so that the listener's not caught off guard too much, and it brings more tension too. Different build up this time, different rhythm, and you can hear the new vocal come in. So this is not an A-B call and response sort of drop, it's just sort of just your typical normal 4 on the floor. Your kick and clap, and then I've used a new vocal and I've distorted it a lot to give it that vibe, but I made sure that there was some frequencies taken out so that it didn't sound over distorted. Even though it is distorted a lot, it's controlled. Go through the effects that I've put on this vocal here. So some manipulator, just to enhance the stereo image. Some reverb, this is what's bringing a lot of distortion here. A filter, more EQ just for some controlled compression. I used a volume automation here so that you'll see in a minute here. Some more reverb and a sidechain. So I've automated the volume so that I can get the rhythm down. So I'll show you without it here. can hear a big difference towards, you know, the volume not being automated and this being automated. Same again, the sample I've used before, but it's in a different rhythm, and it's mixed differently so that it's not in the way of the vocal, but it does support it. Same effects as before. And that's really it. If you don't already know, Closure is out now on all platforms. Shout out to Madox for this opportunity, and I appreciate the support given on this one so far. Let me know below if I missed out on anything that you want to discuss on, and I'll sure get back to you on that. And once again, thank you so much.